All right. Good evening. It is February 19th, 2025, 5:56 p.m. And this is a video highlighting the apparent hypocrisy on the left side of the aisle, making claims that what the Trump administration is doing is unconstitutional, as if it's never been done before, so forth and so on. So, in this episode here on Alternative Perspectives, I want to go into historical um, precedences that paved the way for what Donald Trump is doing, and the fact that most of it was paved by the Democratic Party. So we're going to start here with the subcommittee meeting. And this gentleman here points out something very hypocritical that the Democratic Party cannot deny. And I found it very interesting. So I'm going to offer some commentary on it. And without any further ado, we'll get into it. Let's go.
Want to speak frankly at first to the American people. We're nearing $37 trillion in national debt. What does that mean? That means that each and every U.S. taxpayer owes over $323,000. Okay? What does that mean? That means when the EPIC, which is the Economic Policy Innovation Center, says we have 18 trillion left. That's it. 18 trillion left to take out. And we're spending $2 trillion in debt every year. Folks, we're at the precipice of a debt, we're like a debt cycle. We are literally at a point in which the dollar will be worth nothing. What does that mean? And we know Social Security goes bankrupt in 8 years, right? Medicare goes bankrupt in 10 years. And then 15 years from now, the dollar is completely devalued and worth nothing. So what does that mean? That means your pension, the money in your bank, your savings is nothing. It's worthless. So what are we doing? We're trying to save this country. We're trying to save your pensions. We're trying to save your bank accounts. We're trying to save this country for the next generation. And it would be nice if we had help. But instead, we have people that are fighting us on this. And, I think that I would hate to be in the Democratic Party right now because you're in a really bad bind. You're having to defend all of this crazy spending, all of this crazy waste. So how do you do it? You do ad hominem attacks. You attack the messenger. Oh, Elon Musk, right? He's rich. He must be evil, right? That's the attacks. Really? You can't do any better than that, right? Let's talk on the policy. Help us. We're trying to save this country. This is and Elon Musk, who's making no money doing this, is trying to save this country. Why? Because he has invested in the United States of America more than anybody, right? So I think that we should embrace it. In fact, not a single company, governor of any state would ever turn down Elon Musk and his team of DOGE from coming in and providing free services to right the course and financially in any state or organization. It's ridiculous that we would demonize someone that loves this country so much. Mr. Whitman, the formation of agencies via the executive action is not new, right? The formation of DOGE is not new. Can you, are you familiar with any other previous presidencies where they've formed organizations like DOGE via executive action?
Yeah, so actually the agency that DOGE is occupying is one that was created in a previous administration. So it is something that happens routinely. But I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, there's been the Office of Budget Management was created, Environmental Protection Agency was created, the U.S. Digital Service, which is now DOGE, was created all by executive order, right?
And actually one other I'd add is USAID was originally created through an executive order by President Kennedy and then later formalized.
And then, Madam Chair, I have a
So I'm just going to pause it right here for a second. What they're pointing out is that the authority of the executive office has been challenged. Donald Trump has been challenged in his executive authority. And many are claiming that he didn't have executive authority to do what he did in establishing DOGE. But as these gentlemen just pointed out, all of these different agencies were established simply and alone by executive order. So, another example of hypocrisy. Let's continue.
Video I would like to end with that just let's review if we could cue that to remind, and I want to remind my Democratic friends at a point in which you once had the majority of the American people on your side. This is what your party believed in.
This report tells us how to cut waste, cut red tape, streamline the bureaucracy, change procurement rules, change the personnel rules, and create a government that works better and costs less.
I've read it, and where it says the president should, the president will.
Among the 800 recommendations, eliminating 12% of the federal workforce, merging some government agencies like the FBI, the DEA, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, closing hundreds of government offices outside Washington.
From the day I took office, one of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we would do a better job here in Washington in rooting out wasteful spending. We thought that it was entirely appropriate for our governments and our agencies to try to root out waste, large and small, in a systematic way. It means cutting some programs that I think are worthy, but we may not be able to afford right now. A lot of the action is in Congress and legislative, but in the meantime, we don't need to wait for Congress in order to do something about wasteful spending that's out there. We haven't seen as much action out of Congress as we'd like, and that's why.
So here you have it. Obama himself is saying that he was not going to wait for Congress, and he didn't wait for Congress. He took his executive order and he did what he felt as the executive officer needed to be done. Period. Let's still continue.
We launched on our own initiative the campaign to cut waste, and we're going to keep on finding every possible way that we can do that, even if Congress is not acting. There you go.
I think.
Okay, before we get into the next clip, I just want to point out some other things here. I want to pull up a couple articles. Okay, this is an AI summary of what the United States Digital Service was, how it was created, what was its purpose, what it did generally, and I'm going to share that on the screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, so put into Google for what was the purpose of the U.S. Digital Service. This is the U.S. Digital Service was established by President Obama during the Obama administration. Okay, and this is a brief overview of it. It says that the purpose was to use technology to transform public-facing services, to build digital capabilities for the future, to improve how the government delivers services to the public, to build trust with the American public. How it does this? By hiring top technologists from diverse backgrounds for short-term tours of duty. These are not federal workers. Okay, they were top technologists, just like Elon and his crew of the youngins, the best and the brightest. They're young, but they're the best and the brightest. It's the same thing that Obama did. Let's see what else here I want to point out. They helped the IRS protect taxpayer information. So they had access to sensitive information by working alongside the IRS. It's the same thing. Hypocrisy at its finest. Okay. So I want to get into another video. Bring that up real shortly here. share the screen. Let's stop this. Oh, one more thing here that I wanted to share. One more article. Yeah, Grace Commission. Grace Commission was the private sector survey, or its official name was the Private Sector Survey on Cost Control. Commonly referred to as the Grace Commission, was an investigation requested by United States President Ronald Reagan, authorized in Executive Order 12369. So again, an executive order established this on June 30th, 1982. In doing so, President Reagan used the now famous phrase, drain the swamp. So even the phrase drain the swamp is something that didn't even originate with Donald Trump. The survey's focus was on eliminating waste and efficiency in the United States federal government. Businessman J. Peter Grace chaired the commission. Reagan asked the members of the commission to be bold. We want your team to work like tireless bloodhounds. Don't leave any stone unturned in your search to root out inefficiency. So again, Reagan, just like Donald Trump, used a businessman to audit the federal government. It's been done. It was established by executive order without Congress. Again. So what is the problem? We're going to get into the problem right now. We're going to get into the problem. This is the real problem that the Democrats have, is this money laundering. And I'm going to let Mr. Perry speak on this. Yeah, so Mr. Perry's going to handle this real quick.
Rocket science, you could just read the Taliban is classified, and if you don't know, the Taliban's in charge of Afghanistan. They're classified as a specially designated global terrorist organization by OFAC. So post 2021, so this is last year, 2024, we spent $697 million of the taxpayers' dollars in Afghanistan, including $534,719,000 in change from USAID in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is ruled by folks named Sarajuddin Haqqani. The Haqqani network mean anything to anybody in the room? How about Abdullah bin Laden? Who gets some of that money? Does that name ring a bell to anybody in the room? Your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding. To reform it. And we spend, I don't know, somewhere between $40 and $50 billion annually on this organization. And with the things that you hear, well, many of us, probably most of us in this room, agree with projecting America's power for the good of all the world around the globe. Quite honestly, if our enemies were asked to design a foreign aid program that would actively undermine the United States of America at maximum cost to the taxpayer, they would be hard-pressed to create a scheme more effective than USAID. That's shocking to say, but I just, it's, look, let's just go to a couple things here. We left Afghanistan, and I'll characterize it as left in August of 2021. August of 2021. So the Taliban's in charge. Taliban threatens the lives of the NGO personnel distributing USAID. They claim credit for USAID distribution. They interfere with the distribution of USAID aid. They tax the beneficiary. of the aid. They tax the delivery service. They steal the food commodities. They divert the funds. They extort citizens for protection for USAID aid. They create sham procurement schemes, and they threaten the lives of those who oppose those schemes.
Managers, dry your tears. No more missed clock-ins, no-shows, and last-minute scheduling chaos. With Connect Team's auto-schedule.
Now, that all occurred before August of 2021, when we were there. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You could just read the Taliban is classified, and if you don't know, the Taliban's in charge of Afghanistan. They're classified as a specially designated global terrorist organization by OFAC. So post 2021, so this is last year, 2024, we spent $697 million of the taxpayers' dollars in Afghanistan, including $534,719,000 in change from USAID in Afghanistan. I don't know what we think we're going to change in Afghanistan. We lost 22,000, lost or wounded 22,500 Americans in Afghanistan over the course of our term there in the war, spending over $2 trillion. We're just going to keep on spending because somehow we think it's going to get better. And if you're wondering who's in charge of Afghanistan getting the money, and that money I just mentioned, the $697 million is on top of, and is in addition to the weekly to every 10-day shipments in cash of $40 to $80 million. Afghanistan is ruled by folks named Sarayuddin Haqqani. The Haqqani network mean anything to anybody in the room? How about Abdullah bin Laden? Who gets some of that money? Does that name ring a bell to anybody in the room? Because your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding. If you think that the program under Operation Enduring Sentinel, entitled Women's Scholarship Endowment, which receives $60 million annually, or the Young Women Lead, which gets about $5 million annually, is going to women who, by the way, if you read the Inspector General's report, is telling you that the Taliban does not allow women to speak in public. Yet somehow you're believing, and American people are supposed to believe, that this money is going for the betterment of the women in Afghanistan. It is not. You are funding terrorism, and it's coming through USAID. And it's not just Afghanistan, because Pakistan's right next door. USAID spent $840 million in the last 20 years on Pakistan's education-related program. It includes $136 million to build 120 schools, of which there is zero evidence that any of them were built. Why would there be any evidence? The Inspector General can't get in to see them. But you know what? We doubled down and spent $20 million from USAID to create educational television programs for children unable to attend the physical school. Yeah, they can't attend it because it doesn't exist. You paid for it. Somebody else got the money. You are paying for terrorism. This has got to end. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. In addition, we don't even have an embassy in Afghanistan. Chair now recognizes the representative from California, Mr. Barrett.
Okay, I think that's enough. I think they more than got the point across. This money is not being utilized like it's been marked to be utilized. And just like I've said in prior videos, I've always suspected with my conspiracy theory mind that someone in some way is funding the conspiracies around the world, the different shadow organizations, if whatever you want to call it, that are basically oppressing the whole world. They have to have been getting their funds from somewhere, and it seems like they have a lot of it. And as it turns out, from this discovery of USAID, is that they are getting what it seems to be most of it from the United States USAID. So these conspiracy theories seem to be no longer theories; they're absolutely true. So I think that concludes this particular video. And thanks for tuning in.